going to try this again. So that's my lineup, and that's my dessert. And I'm going to get going right away. So, Serengeti rolls. I loved watching the, they did a time-lapse thing, watching the starfish crawling around. It was awesome. I loved it. So
in the Serengeti?
No. They featured this. It's a stupid name for, I should say that. It's a stupid name for this documentary.
Well, seems weird.
But I'll talk about how that came about. So they start out, they're in Washington on the coast and looking at the tidal pools. So
that's Washington, the state, right?
Yes.
Good.
So that's where the starfish is, and crawling around. And then it started with a guy who he figured out, okay, well, if I toss the starfish out from one tidal pool, and I keep tossing them out, and there's no, then, like, because the starfish is the big predator in the tidal pool. So he had a way to control a little system to see what the effects would be of taking out the big predator. And without the big predator, the population of mussels just boom, it just became a monoculture of mussels. So the whole system depended on the predator taking out the mussels to a level that other things could live. So getting rid of the starfish got rid of a huge number of littler other things.
That's kind of weird. But
yeah. And so he found that, and then he ended up inspiring a guy who was studying the what do you call it? Kelp forest off Alaska. And there's otters, which who doesn't like watching otters? Honestly, awesome. Right? Mm-hmm. So you have the starfish you watch going in fast motion, and that's awesome. And then you watch otters. Who doesn't love watching otters? So and I guess what had happened is the otters had been hunted out for, I guess, for their pelts. And they've come back on the Russia side of things, and they've come back on the Alaska side of things. But in the middle there's still no otters. And so they were able to see, oh, look, the otters are the big predator in this system, in the kelp jungle. And they were able to find, okay, well, or kelp forest. And then they were able to find, well, he eats a lot of urchins. And where he isn't, huge urchins everywhere, nothing else. So it also shows, they were able to show, well, this is what happens when the otters come back, the forests come back, the kelp forests come back, and all the little guys, they come back too. But, I mean, you're left to wonder, okay, well, did anybody study what kind of life was there before? So if the urchins killed off so many things, then is it back to where it was before? I mean, this is kind of a wishful thinking kind of look at how, oh, the nature will bounce right back. Well, if there might have been 1 million species in there, and now there's 10 or something, and so maybe it didn't bounce right back, right? That's from their perspective. It has recovered. Has it recovered fully? We can't say, right? So we're actually just thinking, okay, well, this is possible, that everything will just come back, you know, if we
some things totally disappear.
Well, yeah, exactly. If it totally disappears, it's not going to come back. So anyway, and then as we went from there down to, I think it was Argentina or something, and
they're really hopping around,
I guess. Yeah. And so there they showed the effects of a dam that was put in, and everything was flooded, and so now you just have the hilltops, and they're basically islands, right? But they didn't used to be. And so the jaguars they can't survive there, they're starving, and then it's wrecked everything. So you have all sorts of other things that the whole ecosystem's destroyed there, because say the leafcutter ants, they're going out of control because they don't have the another kind of ant. I can't remember what it was that was a predator for them or whatever. And so they're traveling around. So they end up, so the whole time they're studying, okay, well, the top predator governs the ecosystem. They're very important to the ecosystem. You take the top predator out, they called them keystone species, I think. So anyway, that's where you were led up to this point. And then you get to the Serengeti and you have a different system going on. So there was, people were breeding cattle and raising cattle there, and the cattle had a disease. The disease was going to the wildebeest, and it brought their population way down. So then the disease is handled in the cattle. The wildebeest population, boom, just explodes, right? And the researcher that was looking at this, the main guy, he was saying, well, you don't know what their population was beforehand, before this, and nature might fix itself. You don't need to, we don't need to call them. And people were up in arms. They were like, you need to call those wildebeest, they're going to wreck everything, right? So the wildebeest, they're not a top predator. You would think they would affect the, that they would just ruin the system. That's what, you know, that's what the general consensus was. And that did not happen. Instead, they didn't, the wildebeest didn't eat tree seedlings, and all of a sudden the forests were able to come up. And then there's more birds, and then there's, so actually the wildebeest, who is not a predator, turned out to be a key species in that environment. So, and I see this, there's a lot of environmentalists that they seem to, there's a lot of environmentalists that are aggressive personality types. And they like to believe that passive humans are actually like another species. You know, it's like they're the top predator, and they're the wolf or the bear or the whatever, and they're the key species, right? Or the eagle. And then the passive personality type humans, well, we're the deer. We're just, you know, basically we're
there
fodder.
To keep them alive.
Yeah, we're here to serve the needs of the aggressive personality types. And
now,
I see
most
that
of the environmentalists that are that way would be aggressive propagandists, but
yeah,
you're saying some of them be aggressive
some would be
rulers?
Yep. So there's a lot of aggressive personality types that are environmentalists, that they have positions in environmentalism. And that's not just teaching.
It's not the WHO, but yeah, there are a lot of things like that.
And so I think this video is important
the
for
worst
that.
one we saw,
for those kind of
he
people.
was aggressive ruler, was the sea shepherd. Was that what he called himself? That stupid
yeah, he was
anarchist.
awful. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people who I respect and like think that the sea shepherd is an awesome environmentalist. No. What has he done? What has he done to benefit the environment at all? Nothing.
He's bad news.
He's bad.
Yeah.
So,
the best thing is, I was saying to Pauline, she probably recognized it too, this guy's a phony. He's a big boss man.
Yeah.
So they had one guy kind of had a little bit of a contretemps with the big boss man, and the big boss man got rid of him. I'm the captain here. Say what? Anarchists shouldn't believe in captains. So you can see he was the big boss man.
Yeah, so he does not
really
believe
what anarchists are about.
democracy.
Exactly. No one's going to tell me by democracy or any other thing, you know, like communists aren't going to tell me.
It's very hard for me.
What was that?
It's very hard for me. I have glasses and this does not work. So anyway.
Oh, they're fogging up.
Yeah, so this video is important to tell aggressive sort of environmentalists that, but it's also important for people to recognize the fact that in these instances, it was, in these examples, the problem was not the removal of the top predator, really. If you look at all of these examples, it was the human, how humans were encroaching on these systems, on these environments, and 100% of the time. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to remove the humans? And a lot of environmentalists, since they're aggressive personality types, that's exactly what they want to do. They want to kill off the deer of the human herd, so that
they want to cull.
Yeah,
almost everyone except themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they are,
except for themselves, because
they are wonderful people.
They're the keystone species.
Should be allowed to survive.
So anyway, India Reborn. I will talk about this at a later time. It's got second in the stack. It's very much worth watching, but it's worth talking about all on its own video, because there's a lot to talk about here, and I will talk about it later. Elemental. This one, it's a Disney thing, and maybe the animation wasn't as good as I hoped for Disney, but given what they had to work with, how do you make the elements, water and fire, into cute little characters to tell a story with? It's tough. So honestly, I think they did a pretty good job. I enjoyed watching it. And the reason that I put this one in the same stack as the India is, it seems that the fire people, they were trying to make it seem like they're from India, because the music and stuff that they were listening to, it seemed India. So it's about different elements getting along, and air and earth, water, fire, but it's mainly the fire and the water, right? So anyway, where there once was water. This one, I'm going to talk about this in a little while too. I don't think I'll talk about it today because it's cold. So I'm gonna talk about this and current revolution in a little while. So where there once was water, there's a lot to talk about here. And basically it's about California and the Southwest USA, their water situation. But really that's on the surface what you're seeing, but really it's an ad for new, I don't know, different branding of, like, we've seen this with agriculture, rebranding, just as a way to sell their product. And really that's, to a large extent, what that is. And it's about, it's also about trying to find a way to do agriculture without the use of dams, without flooding in the way that they have been.
That's incredible.
Doing dams.
They've got lots of dams in Southern California. I don't know if any the rivers there make it to the ocean. They've got, like, without being dammed up.
That's interesting. But
you look
again,
at
what are you going to do?
Los Angeles,
how many people are you going to destroy? Because really that's what it comes down to. And but I'll talk about that in at a later time.
You can't be an environmentalist without advocating severe population control.
Yeah, okay.
Otherwise, you're just condemning people to. You do population control. They're going to do population control just by having tons of people die off.
Well, I mean, they were talking. There's one person in this who's interviewed, and they're doing a great job. They're trying to do some gardening, and they've learned how to do some gardening. Their first garden, not a success, whatever. And the woman's talking about how she came from a family, I think it was with 9 children or something like that. It's like, okay, she's about my age. She's in the United States. Where was she when? Where were her parents when they were deciding to have that many children? I mean, and India, they were interviewing people who were from families of 15 and stuff like that. Really? 15?
Stop the insanity now, and stop sending your overpopulation elsewhere. It's absolutely shameful. You're polluting the world with people, because people produce things like shit and pee and all sorts of garbage. Well, absolutely unacceptable.
But anyway, so current revolution. This one's again, we're talking about Southwest America and the Navajo Nation. And this one's only 30 minutes long. This one's not a long video. I might talk about it at a later time, but I'm just gonna say it wasn't that good. It was basically an ad for they were closing down a power generating plant, and the Navajo people were like, yeah, well, we didn't benefit from it anyway, so good. You know, they had these dreams of like prosperity forever, and it didn't work out. And,
yeah, they would have been told they would have been getting a certain amount off of it.
And
I suspect it was a one-time only payment instead of
no,
ongoing.
they were making some money off of it.
Some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the environmental damages, like they were talking about how now their water, they have a windmill, it works, but they can't use it. The EPA closed it down because the water's contaminated and stuff like that, right? So
from the dam. Okay.
Well, there's all sorts of problems. So water was diverted not to a dam, to a power generating plant. I don't know what kind it was. I think it was coal, because they were also making money off coal. So anyway.
Oh man.
So there were lots of problems from that. And now they're like, oh, well, we're teaching our children how to, or young adults, how to set up solar panels. And they were showing some solar farms where it's just like you look from above, it's like a patchwork quilt, like when you look at from an airplane, you look at the farm, and here's one that's all green, and here's one, oh, it's just solar panel. You look close up, there's nothing there. There's just solar panel. There's no life. So if you take,
everywhere where you've got a solar farm, you can't have a regular farm.
Yeah.
There should only be solar cities. They should be on the top of roofs.
Well, even there, we should be growing plants.
One or the other.
You know, where we have roofs that are flat and strong, there should be gardens up there, or greenhouses, whatever. But it's the ultimate solar cell is a chloroplast. It's plants are the way to go. It's not anywhere you set this up. What you're doing is killing people. When you have a solar farm, this is worse than biodiesel. At least with biodiesel, they're photosynthesizing, and you're getting some oxygen off of them. You're getting you're able to compost the remains of the plant that isn't used for biodiesel, and biodiesel is awful. Biodiesel kills poor people.
It's immoral.
It is not environmentally friendly.
It's immoral.
When you take crops, land out of that were in food production out and put it into biodiesel, you're taking that food out of mouths. And whose mouths are you taking out? You're taking it out of poor people, and you're giving biodiesel to wealthy people. So you're taking food out of poor people's mouths, so that
wealthy people can drive around
or
cars.
go on airplanes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And really, you saying, oh, well, you can't use biodiesel in airplanes. Well, it all adds up. Yeah.
But like what they save on buses or something like that, or relatively what they call smart cars, that'll go into airplanes and stuff like that.
And so you're thinking, okay, well, what, you need to set up farms for solar panels. Well, they did show some good uses for solar panels. They had over top of a roof of a carport.
So they're thinking like we've been thinking.
So that works. But when you have farmland that is being put into solar panels, or if you have something like, say, salt flats, that would work for solar panels, because, well, nothing's growing there anyway. So, but if you have land that could produce anything, I'm not talking about just farm for food. I'm talking about native species of plants. I mean, we're losing more and more of them, and we're talking about the Serengeti rules. Well, the more land that you put into solar panels, you're killing that much nature. Nothing's going to live in here. Where the solar panels are, nothing's living there. There's no plants on the ground. There's no animals either. Nothing lives there. You've just created a desert. And these native people that are putting these solar panels up, they're just making things worse for themselves in the short term. It's not even the long term, it's the short term. What's the life expectancy of these solar panels? And then you have to recycle them or whatever. They're landfill, they're nothing, they're garbage. What do you do? This is a nightmare. Solar panels are not environmentally friendly. They're not the answer. So Transformers Rise of the Beast. Knight Rider plus Iron Man. King Kong plus Terminator. Special effects are good. Story ill-planned. Too much reliance on man being savior. You can do this! And it's ridiculous, right? It's, this movie was bad.
Yeah, like what is this?
But, I mean, if you watch it, you know why I brought it out at the same time, right?
Let's all pull together on this one.
Yeah, okay. It's ridiculous. Tigers Are Not Afraid. This one was just so bad it had to go on the bottom. It's dubbing, and it's really bad dubbing from what I could see. The acting was bad. It's an interesting enough storyline. I have no idea. But it's a group of orphan children, and it's set in Mexico's devastating drug wars. So one would imagine it's from Mexico. I have no idea. But Stephen King gives a little blurb on the back. But honestly, I don't know how they got Stephen King to watch this. I doubt he did, because the idea was interesting enough for this show, but it's not worth watching. It's not good. So that's all I have to say, because frankly, I'm cold. Yeah, I'll talk about these other things later on.